Hello and welcome to Talk of Good Gamers match preview of West Ham United against Chelsea, 12:30 kickoff on Saturday afternoon. And as usual, we're going to kick it off with asking Gonzo, what's your thoughts on Chelsea, please?
Well, I haven't seen them play an awful lot. And that being said, I caught a game recently, but just over the course of the season, I haven't seen a ton of them. I think the story lies in the rather than individual games, the story lies in where they currently reside in the Premier League, which is not where they wanted to be. And that's not even the biggest story. The biggest story is the massive spending spree that they've embarked upon. It's been quite a year for, well, I'd say year, quite a 12 months or whatever you want to call it, since a Roman Abramovich left. Nobody could have foreseen that coming in. Todd Boehly came in, weird set of circumstances in which he arrived, and he came in, he made a WhatsApp group, and Thomas Tuchel didn't want to join the WhatsApp group. Too many WhatsApp groups going on for Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel got the sack. Allegedly. I'm not saying that, by the way, just rumours. You hear rumours. So anyway, he not only got kicked out of the WhatsApp group, Thomas Tuchel, and he got kicked out of the club. And then so they went scouring Europe for the best young managerial talent. Turned out it wasn't in Europe, it was in Brighton. So they went and hired the bloke from Brighton, and then they said, you know what? The bloke from Brighton said, come on, mates as well. So they hired his mates, and so they've got everyone in, and he said, I need some players. They got millions of players, and then they've turned around. I think Todd Boehly's thinking, there's maybe the bloke from Brighton's not the best young managerial talent in Europe. And here we are.
Well, what an excellent summary of Chelsea in the last 12 months that was. Thank you very much. So basically, Tuchel don't like being told by his chairman what formation to play, and they spent a load of money. Is that your summary of Chelsea so far?
Yeah, yes, and Graham Potter might have been better off at Brighton, and he probably might want to go to Brighton, but Brighton thinking, actually, you can stay there, Graham. This guy's doing all right.
What would you like to discuss first then? The transfer windows, the manager, or the season? What would you like to discuss first?
No, you choose. There is so much, Gio. Yeah, there is so much. Probably not the team so much, really. Just all that other peripheral stuff is amazing, really. What a story.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're having a poor season, obviously, sitting mid-table in the Premier League. I don't think they're going to get top four, 10 points behind Newcastle at the minute. I'd be surprised they got into that top four. Bear in mind, there's other teams trying to get in there as well as Chelsea. It's not like they've got a clear run at it. So I think almost it's all eggs in the Champions League basket. Obviously, a difficult fixture against Dortmund coming up with them. And obviously, Potter's had to make big calls because he couldn't include all of his new signings in that squad as well. So it all seemed a little bit wild. When they were bringing in all these players, you just thought, Potter's now going to have to almost annoy three potential signings before they've even kicked the ball for Chelsea. And he's also going to have to take three of his current players out of that team as well. So it's not an easy gig for Potter with the expectations at the club already, with the talent he's managing, which will be completely different to what he's managed at Brighton as well. You know, he's now dealing with people that are superstars, and you know, Brighton are a fantastic team, play really good football, and he's had a couple of big names there, but he hasn't managed players on this level that he's doing at Chelsea now, and it's a case of, can you do it? And also at Brighton, he gets signings given to him that are well thought out. And you'd imagine that Graham Potter's aware of those players maybe 12 months before he gets them on that training pitch. It's a case of, I know who's coming in well in advance of before they come in at Brighton. And he's probably involved quite heavily in the once they identify them and they go to try and get them. You'd imagine Graham Potter is quite involved in the recruitment side of it. Even if he's not necessarily hands-on, he's just aware of what's going on at the club, who they're buying, who they're loaning out, where they're going, how they're getting on, and when they're expected to come back to Brighton and perform. And I think it's a lot different than giving these superstars saying, there you go, do something like that, will you? I think it's a completely different thing to what he's used to. And I think it's going to require a lot of patience. Now, I'm aware that that's a little bit two-faced of me, given what's going on with David Moyes at the minute, in my opinions on David Moyes, but I do think the two things are completely separate, and I think the circumstances are completely different altogether as well. And I think this season, which from now to the end of the season, I think it's hope Chelsea, all eggs in one basket, try and win the Champions League, but possibly more important for the longer term, which is give Potter, I think they need to give him the rest of the season as a minimum, but just let him work out who he wants, the best players, work out the formation he wants to play, the system he wants to play, who can play in that. So come this summer, actually, there'll be a lot of players leaving Stamford Bridge. I think there's an expectation a lot of players will be leaving Chelsea at the end of the season. And I think it's up to Potter now to work out who those players are going to be and try and basically get partnerships working so that come next season, he's done the bedding in process, that he's ready to go, that he's got his 11 ready to go next season. And I think he's essentially got almost like 6 months of pre-season, with 4 months of it being competitive football, trying to get high up that table as possible, knocking on the door of European football. Because while I don't think they won't get top 4, they might get 5th, 6th, maybe 7th. Yeah. Maybe they won't want the Conference League if it comes down to it, depending on the outcome of the FA Cup as well as the Carabao Cup. They might have some form of European tournament next season as well. And I think that's what Potter's got to do, really. I think he's had a tough gig. I thought he might do better than he has done so far. 5 goals in 8 games or something for Chelsea. It's not good. I think it's at 5 goals in 12 if you go back pre-World Cup. I'm taking World Cup onwards, 5 and 8. I mean, it's not good.
No.
It just, there's a lot of things going wrong at Chelsea at the minute in terms of just players, individuals, personnel and stuff. But do you think they should stick with Potter, or do you think he's out his depth?
Maybe... I think it's so hard to say. I mean, when I saw him the other day, they had Havertz played up front, and he's not a striker. And for all the money they've spent, and I know they got Aubameyang in at some point, but how he's doesn't seem to play that much. Maybe I gets an injury or whatever. Wouldn't surprise me. For all the money that they've spent, they don't appear to have a striker there. I think it's really. I don't have pity for him. I don't have pity for any of these people. But Chelsea are now moving into a different model. They've always hoarded players in terms of the way they recruit, the way they loan. But I read something the other day about the number of players registered to Chelsea. Chelsea are a warehouse. Chelsea are a holding centre for players' registration. And, you talk about the 3 players that you'd have to admit who aren't in the Champions League squad. That really is the tip of the iceberg. And when I looked at it, and when I say that, I'm talking about players that are registered to Chelsea, are either at the club, either in the professional part of the youth academy, basically being they're not children, they're contracted to the youth academy, and then players that are contracted to them and hold their registration who are out on loan. And I looked at it, and there were nearly 100 players there, and this is really something that's quite unprecedented. They had a lot anyway, and then Bowley's come in and said, "Oh, do you know what? We'll have some more as well." So I think it's a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure how you manage that. I would imagine that if you are a player, if you know you're joining that, there's going to be some sort of acceptance in your mind that you're joining a football factory, a player's football factory. Maybe you equate that in your mind and think, actually, when I sign for this club, I'm doing it for the money, for the contracts, and I might not see Champions League football, might not even see the first team, might not ever play for Chelsea. So I guess that's quite a weird one for Potter there. He was quite innovative with his tactics before, was he? And I think sometimes at Brighton it was all right if they didn't score. And I mean that in the best way possible, because he could sort of do a bit of jiggery-pokery with his tactics. Maybe if Danny Welbeck popped up with a goal, that's fine. If not, they might keep a clean sheet. He might make some substitutions. It was all fine, and it was all praised. Now there's pressure on every substitution he makes. He probably feels he has to make substitutions for the very same reasons that I mentioned. There's so many players. He might only want to make 2 substitutions. He probably feels he should make 5 because he's got all these big egos. Probably doesn't know how to do it. Personally, I don't know. I see him getting the sack. I can't see it happening any other way. If he doesn't turn it round, I can't see him going the whole season, being mid-table, then getting next season. And I understand what the counter-argument is. Well, hold on, they've brought in the director of football and they've done all of this other stuff. I think there does come a point where you spend all of that money, and Bowley's probably looking at it thinking, hold on, I've bought all the players in the world here. I've bought everyone. Why am I not winning? So yeah, it would not surprise me if, honestly, if we finish this video, I went in there, I switched on the telly, and on the yellow ticker tape on Sky Sports, it said Graham Potter been sacked. Would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I think the football factory thing, as you allude to, I think actually Chelsea do give a lot of their youngsters opportunities. And I heard on, I think it was Talk Sports, saying why they're buying all these players rather than promoting youth. I thought, well, hang on a minute. If you have a look at the top 6 teams in England, I'd imagine Chelsea are at the top. With don't need me to name them, but you've got Reece James there, yep. You've got Conor Gallagher in there, you've got Mason Mount in there. Actually, 3 or 4 of their first 11, despite all that money spent, have come through their academy. So they do give the youngsters an opportunity, but also they do loan them out as well and go give them a platform to go and play. All you have to do is look at Matheson at Burnley. You've got Caldwell at the minute at Brighton as well. So they do loan these players out, and I think I say quite good. They do. don't know if cut their losses is the right phrase, but look at Billy Gilmore, went on loan, did quite well. It's like, oh, I'm not sure, right? You go to Brighton then, go have your career. We'll just put clauses in there so that we can buy you back, or we'll get paid if you're successful and you get sold on. We'll make a little bit of money off it, kind of thing. So I actually think the recruitment is quite good. I also think their model for that academy is quite beneficial as well, and they do get an opportunity. Talking of the transfer window, what did you make of it? Because they've come under from a lot of, let's say, scrutiny and some praise and some criticism regarding how they've essentially found a workaround for FFP.
Oh, good luck to them. You know, I don't have a problem with this stuff as well. If the money men at Chelsea are smarter than the money men at the Premier League, good. You know, it says everything about the Premier League than it does then. So yeah, I mean, you know, spreading the liability, so the balance sheet looks more favourable when because it is all is a box ticking exercise. That's it. And yeah, smart, you know, come over from America, smarter money men than the people in there. But the Premier League is just, you know, it's just its component parts, isn't it? It is literally run by the 20 clubs. So that's it. And this is why you've got all this football it's a story for another day, but football shouldn't need a regulator. We have one. It's called the Football Association. That's it. The Football Association is in a mess it's in because they handed it over all the power to the Premier League. Originally, it was the FA Premier League, and basically the FA wanted to get one over on the Football League, and that's what happened. They surrendered all their power. We should basically, if football regulator comes in, there was no need for the FA. We do not require one at all. Do you know what I mean? They are literally just a body that runs grassroots football. It's as simple as that. So basically, they don't have an area of expertise at the top of the Premier League to deal with this. I'm not surprised these financial experts come over. You know, a lot of them have got investments in all the big banks and all the financial corporations in America. These are going to be really, really smart thinkers. They probably come here, look at the Premier League, and think this is a sham. You know, here we go. By the way, so honestly, and I do mean that. Good luck to them if they found a workaround, because I'm not overly. It's a conversation for another day. I'm not overly happy with what's happening at Manchester City at the moment either. I mean, with the way Manchester City are being dealt with, being made an example of. So yeah. You know, they basically, Chelsea have been smarter than Man City.
Yeah, I think Chelsea have been smart, full stop. You know, Bowley arrived and it was a case of, what does this guy know about football? We're going to find out. Well, turns out, I think the jury's still out in that regard. But I'll tell you what, in terms of financial in business, I think he's very switched on and he's showing the way for a lot of clubs. And now you've got UEFA scrambling to change the rules immediately overnight so nobody can do it in the summer. And I think, well, Chelsea have gone in there, found an opportunity, used it, and they've taken a gamble. I mean, later down the line, this might backfire on them. Essentially, when it comes to year 5 of the plan, if you like, they're going to start minus so many millions on the FFP sheet, but all it takes is to sell one of the players they bought, and then suddenly it balances out. I think it's been quite smart, actually, what they've done, and they've been bringing in young players with high ceilings as well. So it's still a risk, though. It's not
they could be crap. You could sign a crap player and make your contract. Yeah,
and they've got a 7-year contract. You've then got to pay them for 7 years. You sell them for a loss and hope they go elsewhere. But they're sitting there on bumper contracts at the minute, with a lot of years added on to it. But I think fair play to them. You know, the rules are there, and they're within. It looks like they're playing within the rules. They've just found a loophole to some. I would even call it a loophole. They've just been, like you said, worked smarter than the other clubs have. Last question on Chelsea. Give me a yes/no answer. Will they get top 4?
No.
Will they win the Champions League?
No.
I'm going to say no to both of those as well. And last question is always, players you admire. I mean, take your pick. There's a list.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty. There are plenty of them. There really. I said about Havertz. I like Havertz. I do. I just don't think he's a striker, particularly. Yeah, Mason Mount's a really good player as well. I tell you, is Chalobah is better than again, he came through every time I've seen him play. I don't know why I expect him to be crap. I think maybe because his brother wasn't very good. I think that was the reason why I started playing that. One Chalobah's as good as another. But he came, he's good. He's a decent enough player there. I like Fofana. He's not featured. Besides law, I think he might be fit for the West Ham game. Again, but I'm basing that not on really overly what I've seen at Chelsea, because we looked at him because he was linked with
I thought you were talking about their striker for a minute. I thought, since when have you seen him play?
Oh, right, no. Oh, mate, honestly, there's so many, but I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend I've watched loads of Chelsea this season. Basically, I haven't.
It's hard for me not to pick out their new signings. I think Fernandes is a top talent. I mean, he was. I've seen him a little bit in the Champions League for playing before the World Cup, and then he's gone to the World Cup and he's absolutely smashed it there. And I think he's worth the money Chelsea have paid for him. To be honest with you, they can get the best out of him. They've got.
Where I know he's a midfielder. Is he more defensive or is he more attacking?
A deep line sort of playmaker, if you like. This is the one of the conundrums that people are saying was, can Potter get the best out of him in terms of playing him in like a double pivot with a number 8 that kind of role there, or number 6 role? What's Potter going to use him as? Because he's not number 4, but it's a question of does Potter know how to get the best out of him? I think you've seen that for Argentina in the World Cup as well. He's technically as good as Jorginho, but he's better going forward. He constantly is looking to pass forward, will contribute more goals from open play as well, compared to Jorginho too. I think he's a top talent. I think they've got a real good signing there. Mudryk, I've only seen him play for Ukraine, but look, Scotland have played Ukraine quite a lot, so whenever we played him, he was always the player that they picked out, and he always did cause us problems. Just with his pace more than anything, he's just unbelievably quick, quite strong, quite big. I think he's quite raw. His end product needs a little bit of polishing, if you like. And when I saw him for Shakhtar against Celtic in the Champions League as well, just needs polish, but there's definitely something to work with there. Madueke, if they can keep him fit, he'll be a top player, but it's that injury record that they've got. They've got to sign Gusto, loaned him straight out to Lyon. Clever signing. He impressed against West Ham in the Europa League last season. But Badiashile is somebody I'd never seen play before he arrived at Chelsea, but he's the one that stood out for me in the last few games. I saw the second half against Fulham, looked really, really good then. At Anfield, I thought Chelsea played quite well there. 3 clean sheets in the last 3 games. He's made a big difference. I think him and Silva have got a good partnership there. And like you said, Fofana's going to come back and put pressure on them. But lots of top talent. It's just a case of, can Potter get something out of it and turn them into a team? We'll wait and see. But anyway, shall we move on to our team?
Oh, yes, indeed, mate. Yes, indeed.
We'll start with team news. As always, no Thilo Kehrer for West Ham as he went off injured against Newcastle. Kurt Zouma is incredibly unlikely to be available. David Moyes has suggested there's positivity regarding Zouma's return, but I think this game will be a little bit too soon for him. But the good news is we've got Danny Ings and Gianluca Scamacca available for Saturday afternoon, but no Maxwell Cornet. We don't know where he is. He might have gone back to France and returned. He might still be in France. We don't know, but he's gone somewhere. But a lot of availability for David Moyes, just not in the centre-back area. Gonzo, is the team starting to pick itself a little bit? I mean, when I thought, oh, what team will I put down? I'd done them all by the last 2 positions in the team. I thought, okay, that's where the debate lies. But elsewhere, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, I think so. I think so. Whether Moyes will agree, I think you've got the. Here's the thing: is David Moyes going? Is the injury to Kehrer going to force David Moyes to revert back to his previous formation? And I don't think he should.
No, he can't though, because then he's going to put a Gerd on the right of the centre back, and he just looked uncomfortable against Leeds. I think you're removing one of his biggest attributes, which is that distribution from back 3.
Well, he's wanted that for a long time, David. That's why Cresswell was in there for so long, and he did it in his first stint as well. By the way, David Moyes' first stint, he put Cresswell there at left centre back. He sees that he's left centre back. He sees that as a creative position. There's no doubt about it. And so I hopefully sticks with it. There is a natural choice there. I thought. I didn't know that Kehrer was injured. I didn't know. I thought it was tactical. I really did. I think it surprised nobody. I think before anyone found out Kehrer was injured, if you looked at it, and almost everyone thought, oh, that's one mistake too many. Moyes hauled him off at half time.
Well, I didn't, because I thought he was playing all right. Yes, he was at fault for Newcastle's goal, but the 40 minutes that followed that, I thought he played quite well.
I know you did, and that's not what I'm saying. My point is, even if you thought that the 40 minutes after the mad 5 minutes was fine, you would concede, crikey, that David Moyes might have thought that's a mistake in every game. He's coming off for tactical. You know what I mean? It's not beyond the realms of possibility that David Moyes would do it. Do you know what I mean? I know, because he loves a half-time sub, doesn't he, Moyes? So I thought, and Johnson went in there, and we looked more. He looked good in there. I thought we looked, a bit more solid.
Yeah, I agree with that part.
So I just thought it was tactical. Then we find out he's injured. So I just hope that David Moyes saw that. I don't think he trusts Johnson overly, but hopefully he does. Hopefully he goes in there. So I think he will do a really good job at it, Johnson, and keep that formation, which is really looking good as well. And you've got Soufal coming back into a bit of form. He looks sharp, and he's talking about fighting and battles and eating people and you know, crushing them. I love it. It's some. Most of that he didn't say, but that's what he's alluding to. By the way, he's up for the battle. He's up for the fight. Is Soufal.
So your back three: Johnson, Ogbonna, and Agard.
Yeah, I'd keep all that the same. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the domino effect. If you were to switch to back four because of the lack of centre back, I mean, this means there's no centre back on the bench, right? We're not going to have unless he puts Baptiste or someone on there, which is incredibly unlikely. I think we have to accept there's going to be no centre back on the bench to cover for these. So if he did switch to back four, it's a domino effect that bothers me. And all you have to do is look at Newcastle as an example. Bruno come out the team, but then Longstaff had to go into Bruno's position. Willock had to move to the other side of midfield. Yolenton then had to move back. Then St. Maximin come in. And it's just the domino effect of one player coming out. You 4 people are then changing. And if we do that, we move to a back four, Agard goes to the other side of Ogbonna, as we've seen. And then we have a massive debate about who should play left back, because Emerson has been playing well wing back. But I think a large part of him playing well there has come having Agard behind him. And would you trust would you trust Emerson as a conventional, traditional left back? I don't think I would. So then you're into the question, well, do you then put Aaron Creswell there? Or do you put Ben Johnson there? And I just think the domino effect of that is too much. And then you start disputing who should play left wing, because they've then got to protect the left back, which is not something they needed against Newcastle. So I think you've got to stick with a back three. You have to keep it familiar. And like you said, Ben Johnson played well in the second half against Newcastle at right centre back. And we've seen him play well in that position before. It's not a new position. There was actually quite a lot of people, not just ourselves, a lot of our subscribers are saying this might be Ben Johnson's best position. We don't know yet. There's not enough evidence. So I think this is a good opportunity for him to actually stake a claim in the team and say, this is my position going forward now. If you are going to play with a back three, I want to compete with Zouma and I want to compete with Ogbonna. I want this position in the team. So moving into your midfield four, shall we call it? Again, this is what I was saying. I think it picks itself. Soufal, Paqueta, Rice, and then Emerson on the left.
Yes. It's funny how you consider them to be midfielders. I guess they are still defenders, Soufal and Emerson.
I think it doesn't really matter. Some people call this formation 5 at the back. I can't call it 5 at the back because it's not. I call this 3-4-3. That's what I call it.
Do you? Okay. Okay, I've really given it out.
It looks like on paper.
Absolutely, yes, you couldn't change that. I thought, if your midfield four, for excellent performers in midfield there for your Gio in the last game. So really, I thought they all played really well. They have to keep their space. Look, without going through the motions too much, I think the one that you ponder a little bit is going to be Benrahma, and that is. I can see for this one, Moyes putting Fornals in there. Well, I just can.
This is what I was going to say to you. This is the debate, isn't it? Because Jared Bowen starts on the right. Can we agree with that? He's on the right of that front three. So now you've got 2 vacancies. You've got the centre forward and you've got the player to the left of the centre forward. Now, Michail Antonio played quite well against Newcastle. So arguably deserves to keep his spot. But does he? Because we've now got Ings and Scamacca available. Arguably the better strikers, Danny, and they should probably start when they're fit. But then again, it goes back to swing that back round, but Antonio probably suits the system more than those two as options. But then what do you do on the left of that? Because Benrahma has been poor for a few games now, poor against Newcastle. Do you then bring in Fornals? Or do you move Antonio to the left and bring a striker? And what do you do? And this was my question. I'm intrigued to see what you're going to say. How would you fill that other 2 spots in the team?
Oh, well, okay. So the game that I saw, I've seen 2 games basically. I've seen a bit of Liverpool and I've seen a bit of Fulham. I'm talking about Chelsea games here, okay. And on one of them, I'm just double checking now. You had Ziyech there. Yeah, I mean he's done okay. So Fulham one, James was back for the Fulham one, right? The one before that, the Liverpool game, it looked very, very different down that side. So you almost had Ziyech as like a wing back, and then you had Chalobah as the right-sided centre back. Now that's very, very different. Very different to having Reece James there with Conor Gallagher, who works hard, sort of there on that more slightly right side of a midfield, if you like, and then breaking deep in there. If it was Ziyech, and I don't think it will be, and Chalobah there, if that was what he was going to go with, and I'm talking the back 3, so Chalobah plays in the Ben Johnson position, if you want to call it that. Who do I think can cause Ziyech and Chalobah most problems. Is it going to be Benrahma? Actually, no, I think Antonio would, playing off that side. I think he would cause them all manner of problems if I played him in that position. So then it's just a case of who you'd play there. And I'm not, I've got to be honest, I'm not sold on either Ings or Scamacca. It's quite, I think, I'm really struggling to see how Ings works under David Moyes.
I actually agree with that. I think Ings needs a partner, and
he looks
we don't
lost.
play with two.
No, he looks lost in there. And then I'm struggling with Scamacca's mobility and without support, and because he also needs a partner. There's an obvious answer there. You've got two players who need a partner who have differing styles.
But then let's just say we did that. This is the domino effect thing again. What do you do with Jarrod Bowen? Do you play him behind them? Do you play him? Do you bench him and put Fornals in there alongside Paqueta and Rice? What do you do?
No, I don't think he will. So I would actually probably go with I think Benrahma has earned a bad game. I do. I think he's earned a bad game.
I think he's had more than one, though, personally.
So I would probably start with the same front three, but it wouldn't take much for me to start with Antonio on the left and then put one of the strikers in up front. But what I do not want to see, I don't mind Benrahma being dropped for Antonio. What I don't want to see is Benrahma being dropped for Fornals. Because again, as I always say, we lose one more attacker.
And that's what I want to see.
Is that what you want to see, Fornals?
Yeah, Fornals
really?
in. Yeah, because I've not been impressed by Benrahma in the last couple of games. And while I scoffed when David Moyes suggested he was a really good impact sub, the two performances following suggest that Moyes was right on that occasion. And I think you've got the way I would go with the Bowen, Fornals, and Antonio up front, because I think Antonio fits the way that we're going to play. I don't think Ings and Scamacca fit this counter-attacking style. And too often before the World Cup, we were using Scamacca up front, but we were playing Antonio's role. It was a position for Antonio, but we were playing Scamacca in there and saying, do what Antonio does. Will he get down that? And he was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I think either you need a change of, you need to put the right personnel in for the way that we are going to play, which I think is Antonio and Fornals, or you need to change the way we play, which I would like to see. It's never going to happen. And if that was the case, I think it would probably be Bowen behind Scamacca and Danny Ings and go two up front and put them both up there, because we know Bowen will track back and Bowen will get in and do the dirty work. And Ings is a hard worker as well. He's one of the best in the Premier League for pressing from the front. He is a hard worker. He will hassle centre-backs. So it's just a case of which one do you want to start with to some extent. And knowing how we often start these games, I think having the three, essentially a triple substitution on the bench of Benrahma, Ings and Scamacca to come on for your front three and change the way you play completely could be beneficial for us. Yeah. But I think I only saw the second half of Chelsea against Fulham, and Fulham made Chelsea look very ordinary, but they are a very, very good team, very well oiled. Their teammates know what they're meant to be doing. They know what each other's meant to be doing. Yeah, Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, the striker caused Chelsea all manner of problems. Mitrovic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he really did.
So that second half, I was very impressed. And I thought, I'm not very impressed by this Chelsea team. But then I was watching it thinking, is that because of Chelsea or is it because Fulham are very well organised? But then when we played Newcastle, I thought we were very well organised, actually. I thought, for a change, I thought we worked very hard. All our players were fighting for each other, with each other, not at each other. And I thought, well, do you know what? Actually, what Fulham just did against Chelsea, I was seeing that against Newcastle. So it's given me a little bit of hope, actually. And I'm really very intrigued to see what David Moyes does, because I think our defence and midfield, I think that's what Moyes will pick. Bowen will start. It's just a case of who else, what's the final two pieces of the puzzle? What's he going to do? And the funny thing is, it can drastically change your thoughts on the team, because you've just said there, if I see Antonio Fornals, it's going to be defensive. Now, I get it. I agree with you. It is quite defensive. It is workaholics. But that's why I think he will go with those, because I think that is how it will work in David Moyes' system. Are you confident?
No, but I'm not
optimistic.
No trepidation. Yeah, maybe a bit. Yeah, I think we can do something against them. Would be the irony if David Moyes gets one over Graham Potter when he eventually leaves Brighton. Would be a story in itself, wouldn't it? So yeah, I think we can. I think we can do something. I don't think we should fear them. I hope you know what I would take if we play in the manner that we played against Newcastle. That would do me. I think if Paqueta can have a similar level of performance, I don't doubt about Rice and you know, and even a Gerd to that extent. It's Paqueta. Paqueta playing well and then getting into those positions on that sort of that right hand side. You know, basically almost being a number 8, but then becoming a right attacking midfielder when it's necessary and breaking forward. I think that could be quite key. It could be, yeah, it could be good. He's got a goal. I know he got the penalty before, but he's got a goal now. But you know, maybe that might, you know, those shots that that Benrahma takes and that they sort of don't really threaten and stuff like that. If we can get Paqueta having 2 or 3 opportunities or shots a game, I can see him curling one into, you know, with his left foot into that, you know, into the far corner as far as he's looking at it, as far as, you know, I really can with his left foot curling it in there. So, yeah, I'd like to see some, I think we could do something. You know, Bowen needs to have a good game now, I think, as well, just to show that he's you know, it was just an off game against Newcastle. Could be interesting, mate. Could be interesting. I'm quite confident and excited about it, actually.
Yeah, I'm quite optimistic. I've got a good feeling. I had a good feeling before we even played Newcastle, and that's, I wouldn't say it's increased off the back of that performance, but I feel more confident in my good feeling now off the back of that performance. And so, but I kind of agree with what you're saying. We can replicate that with an improvement from 2 of our front 3, because Bowen was poor and Benrahma was poor. And I thought Antonio did well against Newcastle, but he didn't really cause any bother. No. What I was impressed with Antonio against Newcastle was his work rate, his pressing. It was almost defensive attributes that I was impressed with. And I don't want to be sat here talking about that from a striker's point of view. I mean, there was a clip from On The Social, which is on Sky Sports on Saturday morning, and then a Man United fan on defending the signing of Weghorst. And he was saying that he played well in his game. And he was literally talking about tackles and intercept. How long on him? He's a striker.
Yeah. And your Man United. I think that's
you can't justify signing a striker because he'll challenge the centre back and intercept a couple of balls. You know, and that's why Antonio played well. So he worked incredibly hard, gave 100%, caused a bit of bother, but there was no attacking threat from him. Now, a large part of that was due to lack of service. Like I said, if Bowen and Benrahma play poorly, it's going to be very difficult for your striker to play well if your 2 support players are not playing as good as they should be. But good strikers can create chances from themselves sometimes. You know, Paqueta created the goal. We got the goal, but in the build-up to that, it was him that had a couple of shots blocked out for a corner and ball coming. That was Paqueta. Nobody gave him the chance. Absolutely. He had to sort of half make it himself and find it himself and get the shot away himself. It was almost like he made the corner happen, and then he got his goal off the back of it. So if we can see an improvement in the front 3, whatever combination that is, and more importantly, we see good substitutions. I don't think we had them at St. James's Park, but we see good substitutions on Saturday. We can win the game, because regardless of who he picks up front, there's 2 strikers missing, because he's not going to play Antonio plus Scamacca. He might do, but I'd be surprised. I think 2 of Antonio, Scamacca and Ings will be sat on that bench.
I agree.
Benrahma, I think, might be on that bench as well. He's going to have game changers on that bench. If we're 0-0 with 20 minutes to go, he's got no excuse not to go for it, because he's got the talent sat there ready to go on that can win us the game. We need bravery on Saturday, because this is an opportunity. Because somewhere along the lines between now and then the season, we're going to have to pick up bonus points. We're going to have to get a win that Everton had against Arsenal, that Wolves had against Liverpool. We're going to have to grab a couple of them. Yeah. And in previous seasons, we've done it against Chelsea. We all remember the 3-2 with Yarmolenko's goal. We've done it against Chelsea. And we need to do it again between now and then the season. Get a couple of results where those around us think, "Oh, do one, will you?" We all thought it. Leeds 2-0 up at Old Trafford. Granted, it finished. Well, we were all sat there. Oh no!
For sure.
We know we can't do that. We are going away to these teams and picking up those. We don't do it, so we're going to have to do it at home at the London Stadium, and it starts on Saturday. And if we can get a win, takes the pressure off quite a lot for the next game against Tottenham. That's obviously a different game because of who it is, but in theory, 7 points out of our last 3 games would be tremendous going into that one, then playing Forest a couple of weeks later. Can I get any final words from yourself, Gonzo, as well as your all-important score prediction, please?
Yeah, I mean, just attitude. This is it. It's about appraising teams and at the point that they're in. And we've been through this with Moyes on numerous occasions. Moyes often doesn't recognise a wounded animal. So, you know, he will often, you know, he probably looks at Chelsea and sees Chelsea, or, you know, it's Chelsea with Jose Mourinho and Ian Robin and Michael Essien coming at us. Well, it's not. And, you know, we'd seen that with Liverpool again, when Liverpool, but, you know, when Trent Alexander-Arnold was there for the taking. We've seen it with Arsenal, and Arsenal were terrible under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and they were there and they were awful, and we were all over them in the first half and didn't do it, and then just didn't capitalise on it. So it's a case of not all of these super clubs. I would call Chelsea a super club. Not all of these super clubs are in tip-top form all the time. So David Moyes has got to recognise it. He's got to put a plan into place and actually go for it. And you are quite right. And I would not be surprised if he does that thing that is keep it tight for 60 minutes and then tries to do something. But, that would be really good. It would be a great way. And it would vindicate his tactics. It'd be nice to see his tactics. Look, we all know we're stuck with him for the rest of the season. So it'd be nice to see his tactics work in that sense. And, to pick up a win against Chelsea. And I'll tell you what, that league would look a lot more healthy, wouldn't it, if we could win against Chelsea? So, yeah. I think it'd be 0-0.
Funny enough, I'm actually just going to show you my score. I write it down.
Yeah.
0-0.
Yeah. You say that you might have been doing a draw, and it might have been a couple of eyes, and you're about.
I wasn't drawing. I always write it down. Just not that I'm going to forget, but it's more so I don't change my mind while talking to you. Because quite often when I listen to you, you make some good points, and then it might change the way I think. So I write it down as almost to say to myself, "That's your score prediction, regardless of what he says. Don't listen to him. You're sticking with that one." But Chelsea are goal shy, but defensively very solid. West Ham defensively very solid, a little bit goal shy as well. So I can see it finishing 0-0 actually. This is the right time to play Chelsea because Potter doesn't know. I would say doesn't know. He probably doesn't know half his new signings yet. He's probably still working them out, having a look at them on the training pitch. And that last weekend was the right time to play Newcastle because they were missing Bruno. This is the right time to play Chelsea because Potter hasn't got used to using those players yet. Mason Mount's bang out of form. Havertz ain't working. Well, there's a bloody good chance both will start on Saturday. But give it another month. There's a possibility that neither of those will be in the starting. He'll have a new striker. He'll have Mudryk on the left. He'll have Madueke on the right. And he will have sorted it. He will have got Mount out of the team and found a way to play without him. But at the minute, we might see bang out of form Cucurella playing left back as well. So Potter hasn't quite moulded that team yet with the January signing. So I think this is a really good time to play them. And like I said, 5 goals in 12 games or something. Their strikers are bang out of form. Their confidence is low. That's the problem, Matt. I think Mount's a good player. Confidence is just at an all-time low at the minute. We've got to take advantage of this, and it's an opportunity to get all 3 points. Will I be happy with a draw? I don't know. Will you be happy? I think it depends how we play. Really,
I would, yeah. I would. Yeah, don't know that about it. But I think we can win.
Anyway, shall we? We'll find out Saturday afternoon. But if you enjoyed this preview, please do drop a like on it by clicking the thumbs up. Subscribe to Hammers Chat, myself and Gonzo. Catch you in a bit.